Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Bit of a post-mortem after Celtic's 2-0 loss against Lazio last night in the Champions League, and a couple of wee bits of Celtic-related news. Now, for me, it's not all doom and gloom. I thought that Celtic's performance right up until the 80 odd minute when Ciro Immobile scored the first of their two goals. I think Celtic played really well. Nice defence. Wasn't massively threatening in the final third. However, Kyogo and Yang both had good half chances. Um, Carter Vickers a nice header on goal from a corner, and very late on, of course, we had Carter Vickers going very close with a shot from inside the box, and also the rather ridiculous overturning of a perfectly good penalty by VAR. I think, as always with VAR, had it not been given by the referee, I don't think VAR would have intervened. I think it is actually one of those rather stupid ones where I think the referee on the pitch has a far better view of the incident, far better view of the amount of forces that one player has on the other. I think VAR, when it freeze frames things, doesn't really get the right kind of flavour of what the contact was like. It wasn't a clear and obvious major clangor of an error, and thus it shouldn't have been overturned by VAR. And as always in all football, VAR causes as much problems, as much controversy as previous when we just had referees and linesmen making bad decisions or close decisions. Anyway, the VAR wouldn't have made much difference. We would have lost 2-1 rather than 2-0, as it wouldn't have been time for us to get a second goal. I did think personally that playing Forrest and Yang wasn't the best of ideas. I think there was the capacity in this particular game to go with three centre backs, using Johnston and Taylor as wing backs, pushing forward, having a nice tight midfield three, and O and Kyogo playing up front. One of the difficulties, of course, was the lack of any additional striker to come off the bench late on if Kyogo or O got injured or overtired, etc. And that is something we will need to address in the transfer window in the winter, where we really do need a brand new goalkeeper, a brand new left back, and a brand new additional striker. And I'm very certain Celtic will get that done. I have my doubts, though, that the Celtic fans will be convinced these are the top quality, experienced Champions League starters that we need. I have made comments and on quite a lot of different pundit sites and internet sites and YouTube sites for fellow Celtic experts and football experts to tell me just who are these experienced, top quality, difference maker players who are going to be happy to come to Celtic. We are going to have to, as always in recent years, cut our cloth to fit the prestige of the league. So we'll be looking at the Eastern European market, the Scandinavian market, and the Far East market, potentially also the African market. We're not going to be able to sign the players that are destined for Serie A, Ligue 1, the English Premier League, the Bundesliga, etc. We're not even really going to be destined to be signing the players destined for signing in Portugal or Holland or maybe even Belgium, as those are all higher prestige countries, higher prestige leagues, and the TV budgets for those countries are quite considerably better than Celtic's. For example, the Dutch TV budget 4 times as much as Celtic's budget from Scotland, and the budgets for the English Premier League, the Bundesliga, the leagues in Spain and Italy, we're talking 25, 30 times as much per season as a club like Celtic or Rangers, etc., gets through the current Scottish League TV budgets from BBC and Sky and Viaplay, etc. I think Celtic do have the money to splash out and have a big signing. They do have the money to splash out big wages to a player, but those players who merit that kind of high transfer, 15, 20, 25 million, and a corresponding signing bonus and weekly wages, don't want to come to Celtic. It's plain and simple. Do think it's quite interesting us talking about Brendan Rodgers being very keen on a player called Tiago Rojo, who is a 22-year-old Portuguese player, primarily left back, but also plays left midfield and left-sided attack. Under 21 international from Portugal. Played now 46 games for Estoril in the top league in Portugal, having had quite a career prior to that with the Benfica system in the youth team, under 23 and B team, and he also had a brief spell with another Portuguese league side a couple of years ago on loan. But he's 22. He has only just got into first team football for a lower mid table team in Portugal, having been on loan at a lower level Portuguese first division team or Premier team. He's not really this player who's setting the heather on fire. He's not really a player coming with a great reputation. I don't think any of the Celtic pundits on the internet or YouTube, etc., will have ever heard of Tiago Rojo properly before. Don't think any of us have ever seen him play before. Certainly we'll have a wee look at the scouting reels and what's available on the internet and YouTube for him, and relay that back to you over the next day or two. He looks, from his stats, a perfectly reasonable player. He looks similar in many ways to players such as Paulo Bernardo, Odin Tiago Home, Yang, O, Lacabielka, etc., a player with a year or two of experience at a professional club in their national under-21 side, but not really the difference maker, proven Champions League quality player that we're looking for. I think, as always, Celtic are going to be looking at less established markets, less well-known players, and for me, the key, and I think that's something the board should be massively praised for, and the recruitment team and finance people should be massively praised for, and nobody is doing it, is the fact that we've committed a lot of money to extend the contracts for several years for players like Dyson Maida, Kyogo, Rio Itati, Matt O'Reilly, Ralston. It looks like we're in the process of doing the same for Liam Scales. We have, it appears, offered David Turnbull very similar terms, which he has so far turned down. I think Carter Vickers probably would be the next player on the radar for an extension and an increase in salary. And yet, nobody is praising the board. They're all criticising the board for being unable to sign the players to make a difference at Celtic, and yet they have no doubt, they have no understanding of what Celtic's recruitment team, scouting team, and board has been doing behind the scenes, and just what the reaction from players like Fabian Rieder Andre Lunin, Daniel Podence, etc. was when Celtic came knocking, offering them a transfer and a move to Celtic. All of them disappeared off to other clubs. Andre Lunin keeps on being linked with Celtic. He is out of contract. He seems to be out of favour at Real Madrid again. However, it would appear that there are a couple of very high quality Spanish teams lined up to sign him for the next season on a freedom of contract style transfer. I don't think Andre Lunin will come anywhere near Celtic Park unless it's to play for one of the upper level Spanish teams or a corresponding team from England or France or Germany, etc. Other rather bizarre thought that came up, quite a few reactions and sites on YouTube last night, was the fact that we were playing such an old player as James Forrest, who is only 32. And I think people forget that the person who came on and made a difference for Lazio scored their 2 goals. Ciro Immobile is 33, and also the other difference maker they made and brought on in the last half hour was Pedro, left-sided attacking player, who's 36. So I don't think age has anything to do with it. I'm not saying James Forrest is as good now as he was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I think his career is just the other side of the hill. I think he's still a perfectly good player to play in Scotland. I don't think he's quite the player to play in Europe, but then he maybe never was. And I don't think age has anything to do with it. Ciro Immobile came on, age 33, scored a couple of goals, did the kind of thing that he normally does. He's got an excellent record for Lazio, excellent record in Champions League football. And so I don't think a lot of the reactions from fellow Celtic pundits have been that realistic. Well, I would say I thought Celtic did a fine job. I thought the midfield of Bernardo, O'Reilly, and McGregor worked very hard. They tracked back, they supported the defence primarily, they distributed the ball nicely. Yang and Forrest weren't really that much of a threat out wide. Kyogo worked very, very hard, pressurising the ball, slowing down Lazio's distribution. Kyogo had a shot on just narrowly missing the far post. Yang possibly should have headed for goal rather than trying to square it for Kyogo. So there were the chances there for Celtic to snatch a point or even a win. Just the gods and the luck wasn't with them. Contrast that with a deflected shot from the edge of the box, screwing and bouncing just past Carter Vickers and just in front of Alistair Johnson, just perfectly for Immobile to score. A possible push and shove on Scales, knocking him off the ball. Immobile then outfoxing Carter Vickers and scoring their second. And then we look at the added time VAR overturning of a perfectly good penalty. I think Celtic fully deserved a point for the match, same way that they fully deserved a point against Lazio at Celtic Park, at least. And I think they deserved all 3 points against Atletico Madrid. But these things don't always go with what you deserve, they go with what happens. I think Celtic really are missing, in terms of Champions League, our number one players like Abada, Maeda, Palma, Navroki, Hatate. I think had all those 5 players been playing, Celtic would have done far better in this European campaign had they been available all the way through. I think Scales has done a fine job deputising. I think Yang has done his best deputising. I think Bernardo and Home have done fine jobs, along with Turnbull deputising for Hatate. But the thing really is, I think Celtic, with their best 11 on the pitch, would be able to have secured a point or even 3 against Lazio at Celtic Park and in Rome, would have secured the 3 points against Atletico Madrid in Glasgow, would most likely have held on for a draw in Feyenoord. I think we almost certainly would have been beaten a few goals in Madrid against Atletico, who are very much the class of this group and very much one of the class teams of Europe for the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think a lot of Celtic fans got a little bit carried away with seeing the draw, but we were in with an extremely powerful Spanish club, the Dutch champions, and a strong, powerful Italian club, all of whom with tons more finance, tons more prestige, tons more experienced players, and tons more experience at the highest level in Europe, and also lots and lots of players to bring off the bench who are as good as the players that they're replacing them. I think for this season, players like Yang and O and Scales and Thiago Holm and Bernardo should really have been players for us to bring off the bench rather than players that we're relying on. But injuries have stepped in, suspensions have stepped in and taken out our better, more experienced, older players. However, I think if Celtic keep this squad together, the key players of this squad together, build on the experience for Taga Home, Scales, Bernardo, Yang, O, Palma, etc., etc. We keep players such as Hitati, Navroki, Abada, Maeda fit and in the team, and then add a better goalkeeper, a better strong left back, maybe a player taller, stronger, more competitive, but equally able to distribute the ball, and an extra striker who's a real threat coming off the bench to score goals. I think Celtic will get better and better, and will do much better next year in Europe, assuming that they keep the key players together as a team, build on that experience, and can add a couple of players in the winter and the summer who are that little bit more quality, which I think is probably the most we can really hope for a player willing to come to Scotland, who might turn out to be a much more of a player than we expect, such as happened with the Japanese players, because a lot of us were quite scoffing of how well they would do. One other wee bit of encouraging news, Celtic's under 19 side beat Lazio's under 19 side 2-0 away. I think we do actually have some gems in the under 19 team, such as Rockovata, Quinn, Mackenzie Cars, particularly. Interesting to see Mitchell Frame, who's only 17, promoted to the bench for the Champions League match against Lazio. Didn't come on, but I think being involved with the first team squad and such a high profile game will only do him great credit and good. He is a youth age international for Scotland at several different levels. He has played very well in the B team this year, particularly in the European matches, and many people who have been watching him playing for the B team and playing in training, etc., are saying he's kind of on a par with Kieran Tierney at the same age and the same level of experience. If he turns out to be 2/3 of the player of Kieran Tierney, we will be very blessed. And I do hope that Rodgers, over the next 6 months, does get the Vatas, the Mackenzie Carseys, the Quinns, the Mitchell Frames, etc., a little bit more first team squad involvement, some time coming off the bench, particularly so if we get Maeda, Abada, Hatati, Navroki, etc., back into the team, do a wee bit of rotation of the squad as well. Plus, we'll obviously have to cope with the difficulties of the Asian Cup taking away several of our best players, assuming that they get picked in for January and February in the Asian Cup. But I do think the future is relatively rosy for Celtic. I think we are going to continue to dominate Scottish football, and I think with this group of players, if we keep them together for a couple more years, we could actually start to get back to the days of O'Neill, Strachan, and the first period of Lennon, where we actually managed to get through group stages into knockout stages. Over the next couple of days, I'll start to look more and more at the St Johnstone match on Sunday. Plus, I'll do a wee bit of research on Thiago Arujo, and we'll see what we can see, and also keep an eye on any other news, rumours, and gossips surrounding Celtic. So for today, slightly longer video than I was expecting and hoping to do. Hopefully for people who like my style, not too rambly. So for today, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, goodbye, and hail, hail.